So today I want to talk about food again, and I want to talk about fat, carbohydrate, and protein. And I want to put an end to the debate out there as to whether it's better to be high fat, low carb, low fat, high carb, no fat, lots of carbohydrates, no carbohydrates, minimal protein, lots of protein. I mean, it's so confusing out there. It just drives me crazy. I've spent so many hours and hours and hours and hours reading studies, listening to gurus, listening to all the advice out there. And it's so crazy. It is so crazy, you guys. It's all wrong. It's basically all wrong. Your body needs, and this is the simple fact, your body needs all of it. It needs fat, it needs carbohydrates, and it needs proteins. And it needs them for various reasons. They're all different reasons, and we need them all. So to cut out an entire group of fats or carbohydrates or proteins is absolutely ridiculous. Your body will be missing a huge part of what it needs to grow. I mean, we need protein for our muscles. We need protein for our muscles. We get amino acids from our protein and from animal protein. I mean, sure, you can get it from plant food. You absolutely can get it from plant food. But you need 10 times more out of plant food than you do animal food. And along with that will come an increase of everything else that you don't want, glucose and all kinds of other things. So you want to eat as nutrient dense as possible, as minimally as possible, and to get the most value of what you're eating. So let's just talk about protein. You absolutely 100% need protein. And anyone who tells you that you don't need protein from animals, or that that's going to kill you, that's going to give you cancer, they're really doing you a disservice. Because yes, toxins, first of all, cancer and other metabolic diseases are toxic diseases. They're a disease of toxic nature. And so sure, the wrong kind of animal protein, too much animal protein, over and over, depending on what you fed the animals, that can create toxins in your blood. So yes, you want the cleanest source of animal protein and fish. Our society's evolved on animal protein and fish. I'm just going to do a whole podcast about protein and when we started eating animal protein and how our brains grew, and that's how we became human. So we absolutely need protein for our muscles, for our brains. We need the amino acids out of the protein. They're essential. They're called essential for a reason. And we can get them in animal protein, but not nearly to the same degree. And they're not going to do for our muscles and our brains what animal protein and fish are going to do for our brains. So you need to get the cleanest source of animals that you can, grass-fed and healthy animals that have eaten healthy, natural foods. That's exactly what you want. Then let's talk about fat. There are whole groups of people out there saying to cut fat out of your diet. Fat is evil, fat will make you fat clogs up your arteries, fat gives you heart disease, fat will kill you. I mean, let's be honest, we need fat. We 100% need fat. Our brain is, I think the statistic is like 60% fat. The cells are made up of 60% fat. We cannot function, our brains cannot function without giving it the raw building blocks and the raw materials to protect. Each cell is coated in fat. We need fat. Our brains need it, our muscles need it, our tissues need it. We need the fat. We need the energy. I mean, fat is wonderful. It produces ketones, which is a clean burning fuel, as opposed to glucose, which is a very metabolically damaging fuel, although we need both. So we definitely need fat. Our brains are made up of fat. Fat does not kill us. Again, we need clean sources of fat, so good fats. We need all of it. We need polyunsaturated, monounsaturated, saturated. We need all of them. So, there's not just one type of fat, but we need, again, clean sources of fat. So we want animal protein sources of fat, like lard and tallow and the fatty parts of the meat. But again, it has to come from clean, organic, animals that have been fed their natural grass diet. We don't want any of these animals that have been injected with things, or that have eaten corn or soy or grains or things that they wouldn't naturally eat out in the wild. We want clean sources of animal fat. And now we also want vegetable fat. We want coconuts and avocados and olives, and there's so many fats found in nature that we absolutely need for our bodies. The oils, the saturated fat oils like coconut oil, and even palm oil to a degree, they're saturated and they look like they would clog up your arteries. I mean, they're a big hunk of solid fat at room temperature. But those are the types of fats that are actually good for us because they don't go rancid. They don't break down easy. So it's the rancicity of the oils that can cause so much problems. So for instance, everyone says nowadays that vegetable oils, like canola oil and corn oil and soy oil and even these wonderful healthy nuts, when you put them into oils like walnut oil or flax oil or all these different kinds of oil groups, they go rancid faster because they're exposed to air, and at liquid form they can start to degrade, and that's what our body can't take. But it can't take, it can't take anything. It needs to be a healthy, clean source of fat. You don't want it rancid. So that's why saturated fats are great, because they don't go rancid. And you want your oils not heated or cooked or fried on the stovetop. You really want to add your oils after, so that they're cold, pressed, extra virgin, extracted, stone extracted, cold extracted. We want these oils in their natural source, and then we want them in bottles that are dark, so they're not getting exposed to the light and going toxic. We want them to be as natural and clean as possible, and even better, go for the actual whole food of the fat, like the coconut or the avocado. You don't need the coconut oil and the avocado oil necessarily. You can eat the whole thing, the whole olive. But now all these fats are wonderful fats. And our body needs it. We crave it. We absolutely crave fat. And you can live on fat, but you shouldn't just live on fat. You shouldn't go on a ketogenic diet and just live on fat, even though it's a clean burning, wonderful fuel. Your body needs carbohydrates. Let's talk about carbohydrates, which are probably the most controversial and talked about aspect. Some people love them and some people hate them for very good reasons. But you definitely, please don't let anybody tell you that your body doesn't need carbohydrates or shouldn't have carbohydrates. They absolutely need carbohydrates all through history. That's what humans are programmed to eat, carbohydrates. We're programmed to eat plants, fruits, nuts, seeds. I mean, plants, vegetables are all carbohydrates, and fruits are carbohydrates. Now, they're complex carbohydrates because they're a whole food. They're found in nature, and they're not processed so that they don't have all their whole components with them. So that's what makes them a perfect food, and nature's perfect food. They have all the antioxidants they need in them. They have nutrients and vitamins and minerals, and our body needs these things. Our bones need minerals and vitamins, our blood. These are the things that our body needs. Now, they're not building blocks like protein and essential amino acids, but we need a certain amount of levels of vitamins, minerals, and all the phytochemicals and everything that we are getting from plants that we don't even know half of it yet. It's all wonderful. It can heal us. So what people talk about when they talk about a low-carb diet, first of all, is they're wanting you to mostly run on fat, which is a cleaner burning fuel, and they're wanting you to limit your carbohydrates only so that you don't get a big spike of glucose, because they don't want you to become insulin resistant, and those are where a lot of the problems happen metabolically in the body. So it would make sense then, if you cut your carbohydrates, you're not spiking your insulin. You're not getting that glucose rise, which is what people are trying to avoid. They don't want that glucose rise. They want their blood sugar to stay stable, and any amount of sugar, especially, fruits, will spike it. But because they're whole and complex, and they have so many value, and we were evolved to eat them. I mean, before we even ate meat, if you're going way, way, way back, even, billions of years ago, we all came from a line of people that ate fruit. I mean, that's what we ate. We ate fruit. We ate fruit off trees. That's what the primates did before we had the ability to cook and catch our meat. That's what we did. I mean, so we are also evolved to eat fruit. So to cut an entire food group out because we think it might spike our blood sugar is ridiculous. We need fruit. We need everything that comes with fruit, and we need vegetables. So let's just get that out of the way right now. We absolutely need it. Our body craves carbohydrates, and it will do anything to make glucose. If we eat too much fat or too much protein and we're limiting our carbs, it will turn that into basically a way to get glucose. So gluconeogenesis is so easy to happen because our body is programmed to need glucose just as much as ketones. And I mean, basically it needs everything. So to try to cut out an entire food group is absolutely ridiculous. And if you look at the blue zone, some of the longest living people are people that are eating whole plant-based food diets, that are eating grains and legumes, basically beans, and they're eating hardly any animal products, but they're eating tons and tons of carbohydrates. But why is this not affecting their blood glucose, and why is it not giving them diabetes and all these metabolic diseases that we see today that are triggered by it? It's because they're eating them in their whole natural states, and they're not processing them. These cultures aren't juicing them, although juices are wonderful, and breaking them down and making all these flours. They're not doing that. They're eating the beans. They're eating the apple. They're eating the fruit, and they're not eating too much. They're not overdoing it, and they're not underdoing it. They're getting a balance of what we were designed to eat, which is fats, carbohydrates, and proteins, and they're all important. So I just want to get that out of the way right here. Anyone who tells you that you should eat, and trust me, I have done them all in order to try to heal myself. I have done them all. I've done every single diet that you can think of. So I'm not just saying this. I have done them, and I have done them hard and by the book, and I have been super strict. So I have done keto diet. I have done the raw vegan diet. I have done the paleo diet. I have done no carbs, low carbs. I've done high carbs. I have done all of it. I've done minimal protein, lots of protein, gaps. I've done it all. So, and I really think there are certain aspects of every diet that are beneficial, and that's why they exist, and that's why they're healing people, because certain parts of them are wonderful, and they do work. But the basis of what you need to eat are whole, real foods from the earth, and you need every combination of fat, carbohydrate, and protein, but they must, and this is where it gets important, they must be organic, so they're not sprayed, they don't have chemicals and pesticides and more toxins than our body can handle. They must be as clean as possible, and they must nourish us and be as nutrient rich and dense as possible, so that we're having to have 1 cup of something that gives us everything we need, as opposed to 10 cups, because we don't want to spike our glucose. We don't want to make our digestive system work overtime. We want the most bang for our buck, basically. So everything that you put in your body should have a reason, and it should have a purpose. And we need to bathe ourselves in rich, healthy, nutrient-dense fats and proteins and carbohydrates. We need all the vitamins, all the minerals. We need to bathe in this stuff, and it's got to be good, clean stuff. But to cut out an entire group, I'm sick of hearing it. It frustrates me because I believed it like dogma. I did everything I possibly could, but in the end, when it comes down to it, there are so many studies and so many reasons that basically tell you that your body needs all three of these in healthy amounts. And so please don't get caught up. And I will go through all the different diets. I actually have my little list that I've been working on writing down, and I'll go through all the list of everything and why I believe it's one big circle. And I'll share this on the next video. But basically, we'll talk about all the different diets. We'll go through everything and how they all come back into a full circle and where the sweet spot is with diet. So we will talk about that. But for now, I just want to put it out there that we need carbohydrates, we need protein, and we need fat. And they all work together in symbiosis. Our brains are made up of them, our tissues are made up of them, our bones are made up of them, our bodies are made up of them, and we can't live without one of those food groups. So not for an extended period of time if you want to be truly healthy. You don't want to start to get deficiencies in any parts of your body, but if you have too much, you'll build up a toxic load. So we want to hit the sweet spot, but I just want to put it out there that the people who are telling you to have no carbs or to have high carbs or to have no fat or to have no protein, it's wrong, it's dangerous, and overall, that's not how you were designed to live. So you need to start thinking with a little bit more common sense when it comes to these diets. And yes, they all have their therapeutic values, and yes, some of them are healing people from crazy things, and we'll go through those and why that is happening, and how we can benefit from that. But for now, you need to bathe yourself in the cleanest types of fats, carbohydrates, and proteins from the best, most organic, whole sources possible. And that is the starting point for the ultimate best diet for human beings on earth. So have a good day, and next time we'll talk more about all the specific diets and their benefits.